Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Retronaut video. So it's now, what is it? It's January the 14th. It's 2 weeks since I made my last video. The reason for that is it's just been after Christmas and there's been a lot going on in terms of the cabin, trying to get the cabin sorted out. It's still honestly a little bit of a mess in here. It is evolving. The work area is actually looking pretty decent now. It's actually ready to kind of do work in. I think I've got some little sort of cupboards over there to put components in, but it's still a work in progress. But as you saw in the last video, I had a lot of trouble with machines. I did intend to actually do a video on my Amiga 1000, but I had a problem with an expansion for it. But luckily the producer of that expansion has very kindly offered to send me a replacement for it, which is very good of him. I'm talking about David Dunkley, the producer of the Parcero. Now, at the same time, I thought I would try and get the Amiga 1000 working using Kickstart disks, but I actually couldn't get that to work either. So it does look like my Amiga 1000 actually has a faulty disk drive, but you can't test it because you can't boot it to then try using it with some other disks. Yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22. Anyway, that's that, so I couldn't really work on that. I'll give you a little bit of an update on the Commodore 64 and the 128D. The 128D hasn't really gone anywhere. That will have to be taken apart to actually fix the power supply if that is the problem, which I'm really hoping it is. But I did actually take the plunge the other day and I bought a keylog power supply for my Commodore 64. I did test the power supply that came with it, and it did seem to be okay, although the two 9-volt rails, I was having sort of funny things going on with those. Sometimes it appeared like one of them wasn't there. And it's a very old power supply. It's one of the original black bricks, and they're known to fail and cause overvoltage damage to C64, so I decided it was a good time to buy a new power supply. So I bought this keylog power supply. It's the type that actually has power for the C64 and the disk drive, which is pretty cool. I thought that was quite nice that you can actually protect a disk drive as well. This is actually my C64. I've got to be careful. I've actually got the case loose at the moment so I can work on it. And what happened was I received that keylog power supply. I plugged it in and I turned it on and it still didn't actually start up. So I was a little bit worried, obviously, that there was something a bit more serious, but I tried fiddling around with the power switch. It's got a very weak sort of midpoint where it actually pops from being off to on. And I found that if I actually put it back a bit to the sort of midpoint where it rocks over that point, it did actually come on. Obviously, that's pretty tenuous to have to, turn the machine on and then sort of like try and put it in that position. And honestly, sometimes it just wouldn't work. So that's no good. So that showed that the power supply wasn't the problem. My older power supply was just fine. But the keylog new power supply is not a problem having that because it will protect the machine in the future. Went ahead and ordered a new switch for this machine. So I will be replacing that in a future video. It's not going to be a very long video because, hopefully that will just be the end of it. But I did then take the opportunity to try out one of my disk drives, which I'd never really used that much, which is this one here. My 1541 Mark II disk drive. And then I found I had problems with this as well. This will actually read disks, but I couldn't get it to format a single disk. At least I couldn't get it to format the disk and then read back the directory on it. So this might end up in a video soon if I try and fix this. I'm praying that it's not a permanent problem with the heads because I know that a lot of these drives have problems. So I have actually taken the case off and I was happy to see that this is a Safronic mechanism, which I understand is more reliable than one of the other types, which apparently are all dying like flies at the moment. So fingers crossed the mechanism on this is okay and the heads are okay. And there's just some kind of small adjustment that I need to make to get this working. Anyway, on to the main event in this video, and that's actually a new machine on the channel, which is a new, an old Atari ST. Now, I, during the ST era, was a Commodore 64 owner, the machine that we're just looking at. And for some reason, I wasn't that interested in moving over to using an ST at the time. And I think it's because I'd never actually owned an 8-bit Atari computer. So, there was a tendency back in those days to go from an 8-bit Atari to a 16-bit Atari, right? The ST. And it's the same thing with Commodore machines. I was a Commodore user. I'd been using it for, what was it? 2 years? No, 3 years by the time the ST came out in 1985. And it was around that time as well, obviously, that the Amiga 1000 came out. And I think I looked at magazines at the time and I thought, well, on paper, the machine that looks the better of the two, I thought at the time, was the Amiga 1000. The ST was probably affordable for me at that point. But I then really sort of got a bit of a fixation on the Amiga 1000, but I just couldn't afford to buy it. So I had to wait another 2 years to get any kind of Amiga, which was an Amiga 500. Now, I always thought the ST was a cool machine. And, I think it's a little bit sad, really, in a way, that there's this big rivalry between the Amiga guys and the ST guys. I kind of get it. I understand where it comes from. There was just a certain amount of acrimony, I suppose, around that whole era where, Jack Tramiel was forced to leave Commodore, which wasn't a good thing. And then, he fled, or when he went off and actually bought Atari. There wouldn't have been that many people that could have done that. But obviously Jack had the chutzpah and the money to be able to do that. And he then set about basically sort of taking revenge on Commodore by building an Amiga beta. Now, I think obviously, hand on heart, even if you're a massive ST fan, you can't really say that the ST, in terms of its hardware, was a more capable machine than the Amiga. It wasn't. And, his desire to effectively get a machine to market before the Amiga meant that the ST was a compromise machine. In terms of, I think, GEM had to be loaded from disk, was it? Or something like that. I don't know. There was some kind of compromise that they had to make in the very early days of the ST, which was, very similar to the situation that happened with the Amiga 1000, where the Amiga 1000 came in and didn't actually have a ROM built in. You had to load it from disk. As I was just saying, my Amiga 1000 has to have its ROMs loaded from Kickstart disks. So effectively, both platforms, the ST and the Amiga platforms, shot each other in the feet, really, trying to get the market and, grab the market for themselves, which is kind of sad, really, because, they're both really good machines. But that's the way, history went back in the day. I've wanted to get an ST for a number of years now. I've been curious to try them out, and there's certain bits of software on it I'm really interested in trying out as well. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So I was wondering whether to get, a straightforward ST, STF or STFM, or 1024, is it? Or 1020? Yeah, 1020 with 1 megabyte. But I've been watching a channel called The Power of Retro, I think it's called. And I quite like that. That's an ST-centric channel. I was watching that to see what was going on in the ST world. And one of the machines that the guy who runs that channel brought up was the Mega, I'm not sure if it was a Mega 2 or a Mega 4, but I thought that was quite an interesting looking machine. It's a pizza box style, and I quite like the big box Amigas, and I thought, well, it'd be quite cool to get an ST, which is a big box ST. I didn't think it made sense to go for the later ones. They're more expensive from what I understand. But the Mega 4, because it's got 4 megabytes of RAM, seems like it's more capable. I understand it's extended as well, so it's got the Blitter chip, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I decided to get one of those. Now, one of the quirks of that era is that there was a very large market for Amigas and STs in Germany. So there are actually today in Europe quite a lot of Mega 4s available, but they're very often over in Germany. And I didn't really want to get one from Germany because then you get a German keyboard and, the Z and the Y are swapped around. And very often, because of the profile, the ergonomic profile of the keyboard, you can't just take those keys off and swap them. They don't fit correctly in each other's rows. But at the end of the day, I decided to, just go for it and get a German Mega 4 because they seem to be quite freely available, and therefore, the price is a lot more affordable. So anyway, let's not waffle on anymore. I actually got the machine about 2 weeks before Christmas, something like that, pretty close to Christmas. And at that time, I was very busy working on the cabin still, trying to get the basics in here sorted, tables and things like that. I just about got the tables done, but not much else. And I decided that I was going to try and make room. And one of the ways I was going to do that was by getting rid of boxes that I had things in. The Mega 4 was in quite a big box, so I decided to unbox it at that time. So anyway, let's have a look at that now, how that went and what the machine looked like when it came out of the box. But before we do that, let's have a quick word from our sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay, where you can make your tech dreams a reality. And now in PCBWay's new Project Share, you can upload your projects and share them with the community. And if you do use any of these projects, a percentage of the money that you pay will actually go to the author. So you can share your projects and you can also benefit the projects that others have shared on PCBWay. So if you do have any projects, why not upload them to PCBWay and get them out to the community? And of course, why don't you browse the Project Share and see if there's something there that's interesting for you? Because whether it's PCB prototyping, PCB assembly, 3D printing, or even CNC machining, PCBWay is the way. Starting with an instant quote for your PCB projects, PCBWay will leap into action, building your PCB, assembling it for you if you wish, and once it's passed their quality tests, it'll be winging its way to you in a flash. PCBWay, PCB prototyping the easy way. So if you watch my videos about outfitting the cabin, this was recorded during the session where I actually finished the shelves above the windows and I was moving stuff around the cabin. Now, part of that means that I can't really carry on having things in boxes. Some things I received, and because of space, I never really unpacked them. I actually ordered this item here probably about 4 weeks ago now, maybe 6 weeks ago. And I received it, and then it went under a desk, and I carried on working on the cabin and the shed and so on. But today is the day I actually get to have a look at it. Now, I was just going to unbox it and just put it somewhere for now, but I thought to myself it would be quite nice to capture it on camera so that when I do the specific video about this machine, this will actually form part of that video. So hopefully you're watching that video, and yeah. Anyway, so here we go. Let's open it up. Hopefully it's been well packaged. It's actually got glass on it, so I'm not sure how much attention couriers pay to that kind of thing. Probably nothing at all, to be honest. You know what they're like, they just like to throw things over it. So fingers crossed, this won't be broken. Now, I attend quite a lot of Amiga events, and I love the Amiga. If you watch the channel, you know that I was a big Amiga guy back in the day. So one of the machines I never got to touch was an Atari ST. And even to this day, I've never used one, which seems weird to say, but I've never actually used an Atari ST. No, the Amigans out there would say, well, that's no great loss, but I disagree. It's an amazing, it's an amazingly important part of the history of computing. Obviously loved by musicians, as we're always told. So, the first thing that comes out, still attached to some other cables. See if I can extricate this. It's giving me a fight. There we go. Is that in good condition? Ooh, no, that's looking a bit bad there. It's looking a bit chewed up. I might have to put some tape on there because that's fraying quite nicely there. Anyway, let me try and get this bubble wrap out of the way. We'll go on the floor for now, so I've got a bit of time to clean it up. So it comes with a mouse, which is it's not an official Atari mouse, unfortunately. But there's the keyboard. So I don't know if that helps you to guess which machine it is. I'm no expert on ST, so I couldn't tell what the machines are from sight. But let me put that over here for a second. So far the packaging is pretty good. Now for the main event. Yeah, so what I want to do is I just want to get this big box and get it out of here, you know, because it just take up much more room than the actual machines themselves, obviously. So yeah, it's a big box Atari ST. Again, you might have an idea what it is. Let me put this over here, get this out of the way. Well, a couple other bits. I was thinking, what's this? I was actually collecting together loose screws, and I'll put them in this bubble wrap bag, so that's what that is. Because as you're doing DIY, you'll find inevitably that you have screws that just aren't useful for anything anymore. So, here we have the keyboard. Oh man, that flex is looking really bad actually. Yeah, so the flex on this is perished, so that's really bad news. The seller didn't disclose that, unfortunately. But you can't see it from there, but there are many places along the length of the flex that the flex appears to be cut, actually. I'm assuming it's not cut, that the plastic is basically deteriorating. So that's really unfortunate. I hope that's not a sign of things to come for this machine. Let's open it up. Be careful not to actually cut the plastic of the machine. There we go. Got that loose. It's quite well sellotaped this. So. There we are. And the machine, which is dirty, but so far it looks good. Let's have a look. There's a disc in the drive, which is good. What's this? Vidi Bibliothek, a German, what's it, library, something from a library. Vidi Bibliothek. Cybex Verlag GmbH, Düsseldorf. Cybex. Programmable diskette. Let's put that here. So look underneath. It's looking okay. Serial number A102-400-3383, made by Atari Corporation in Sunnyvale in California. Unlike the more recent reincarnations of Atari, this for me is a real Atari machine, which is pretty exciting because I don't actually own that many of them. The back looks good. The side looks good. I don't think it's missing anything there. There's the plug for the keyboard. And I'm wondering if I can get a replacement flex for the keyboard. I'll make one myself or something. Well, I'm really happy. It's actually in really good condition overall, I would say. I'm not sure if it's been retro-brighted. There's some sort of different shades on the top. Possibly it just needs to be cleaned. There's the panel with the batteries in. So there's some batteries in there. Let's get those out. I know that is it the equivalent of the BIOS is charged by these, but we really don't want these. I mean, I don't know how old these are. Let's get them out and get them thrown away. Yeah. So look. Yeah, there we are. On the bottom, there's actually oxidization on it, as I thought. So I probably need to put a little bit of vinegar in there when I come around to renovating it. Put that back. So yeah, an Atari Mega 4. So that's probably going to be one of my machines which I have out once I've got it cleaned up. It's definitely looking pretty dirty, I've got to say, yellowed. So yeah, I'm not sure if I would retro-bright that or not. I'm not sure how good they are when they come out, you know, when you retro-bright them. But it definitely has that sort of nicotine stain look at it at the moment. I know it was a light grey, the original look, so possibly we might retro-bright this, but we'll have to see what it looks like after it's been cleaned. It could be that this yellow is dirt, so we'll just have to look at that. Anyway, back to future Chris. So a few weeks have passed since I just unboxed this, and let me just show you the machine. I hope you can see here there's like a dark mark on the top of the case, and there's some light marks. I'm hoping that this is just dirt and it'll just wash off. I can definitely see what looks like some dirt here in these grooves. So I'm hoping that that's just basically dirt, filth that I can get off. On the back of the machine, so it looks like there's a power supply here, I guess, fan, reset button, power switches here, which has a nice positive action on it. Hope you can hear that. Then here we have, what is it? Modem here. Obviously not that useful these days. I suppose this is probably a serial connection. Printer, which is a parallel port. Then we've got MIDI out, MIDI in, obviously the famous feature on the ST. Then we've got the monitor connection, floppy connection here, and then over here we've got a hard drive. And I think it uses a protocol that's either SCSI or close enough to SCSI to be completely compatible with it. So we're just going to do a quick inspection. I can't actually really test this machine right now because I don't have a monitor cable. And the ST has a relatively peculiar setup in terms of monitors, so it's quite hard to actually get something that I can test this with. What I might do actually is order a VGA cable and then connect that to one of my VGA monitors, which would give me high-res VGA mode. But I don't actually have that cable right now, so I'll have to wait for that to arrive before I can actually do that. In preparation for actually getting this machine cleaned up, let's flip it on its back and open it up. So yeah, the underside of the case here on the label is quite dirty. It looks like it's under a piece of protective plastic. I've never opened one of these before, so actually quite a lot of screws on the bottom here. I'm assuming that these connect the internal case to the actual outer case, and I'm assuming these may be on the corners allow me to remove the outer case. So let's just try that. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of screws, so let me just undo these and see how it goes. So the reason why I got this machine was I wanted to experience an ST. And one of the reasons for that is there's definitely software which was made for the ST only. And for me personally, there's actually a very interesting piece of software, which is the precursor to 3D Studio on the PC. There was a guy, well, there is a guy, I don't think he's actually passed away or anything, called Gary Yost. And he and a team of other software engineers on the PC were to form in the 90s, or I think early 90s, to create a piece of 3D software that was very pivotal in my 3D graphics career. When I left college, 3D Studio, and it's still, you know, the direct descendant of it. 3D Studio Max is still used to this day by many studios, especially in video games, as I understand it. So that's something I'd definitely like to try. And also, the ST was also a platform on which many games were natively developed, and then they were ported to the Amiga. And some believe that this is one of the things that actually held the Amiga back, was that it wasn't allowed to effectively stretch its wings because many early games on the Amiga were just ports of ST games. I don't know to what degree that was actually true. A couple of scratches on the front there, sort of showing off the native actual grey there. Hopefully that will become reduced when I clean this up a bit. Right then, is this going to come off? Let me just take off this flap here. This is the flap that covers up the battery compartment. I have no idea how to take this off. Do I do this at the back? I don't even, have I got all the screws? Let's make sure. Well, there are a couple more, so maybe I should take those out as well, just in case. There's two here as well. That one feels maybe, is it longer, this one? Yeah, still quite long, doesn't want to come out. Oh yeah, that's a super long one. And I'm assuming this one will be something so, there's another one here actually. Maybe that's what's stopping it coming out. Yeah, another super long one. See how long that screw is compared to these. And we've got this one here. Again, super long one. So yeah, that is definitely all the screws out now. Let's flip that over. Obviously, I'm being very careful not to break anything here. There's the button from the floppy drive that I'm actually being really careful about here. And it feels like something's holding it here. No more screws. Oh, hang on. Ah, okay. Interesting. Could be that this has actually never been opened because it feels like there's another screw here. Okay, well. Yeah. Yeah, there it is. Crazy. So it actually does look like this has never been opened. That's interesting, isn't it? Okay, can I get this out? This is magnetized, but the paper's holding onto the screw. Okay, let's just see if it drops out. Oh, there we go. There we are. Okay, and there's some pretty substantial RF shielding on the inside. This is obviously why the machine feels so heavy. So I'm going to make note of this. Machine facing forward, the red lead goes to the right, as you can see. So can I get this out? Yep, there we go. Let's detach that, and looks like there's a screw there. There's a screw here as well. There's this. Okay, that looks like a standoff is broken on the inside, which isn't good. I'm going to put the screw over here, this metal plate. There are some metal tabs at the bottom here as well, which I'll have to turn by the looks of it. And there's this screw here. So it looks like mainly the RF shield's actually held on by these metal tabs. So let me get a pair of pliers, which I can use to turn those. Hopefully these will be good enough. This will look. Okay, that was all right there. Another one here. There we go. There's going to be some at the front, aren't there? Obviously. There's one here. A couple at the side. Okay. Ah, there's another one there. There we go. There we go there. Oh, classic. There's one actually underneath this drive, which is actually loose, which is weird. Okay, can I turn this? It's a weird place to put a tab, isn't it? Somewhere you can't actually get to it. And again, I'm being careful here, trying not to break anything as I take it off. Of course, the nuts here. These probably need to be taken out. So let me just try and find a nut driver to do that. Go. I'm not sure if these have to be taken off, but very often they do. Looks like something slid down here. Metal plate. It's a bit of a weird design, isn't it? Again. And I will get myself a pot to put all these screws in and these nuts, just to make sure that we don't lose anything. Okay, just the modem wants to come off. As I said, modem is basically, pretty sure, just the serial port. So this would be a 25-pin serial port. Okay, we've got this button here. Not sure how that comes out. Okay, this is one of those squeezy things. There we go. That went through. There's another tab here. Missed that one. It's a bit cheeky, isn't it? Hidden away. Okay, that's off there. Bit worried about this one under here still. Not sure how easy that is to come off. I'm also being careful not to cut myself, because very often these things have edges which are a little bit rough and can cut your fingers if you're not careful. I've done that before. Yeah, this tab here is not cooperating. Put this back in just to try and push it over. There we go. And there we go. The RF shield is off. And what a chunk it is. And this is the machine. So let's orient it forward. There is something really bizarre going on here with a bunch of different pins. Looks like some kind of bodge job that's actually onto the CPU. I'm expecting this to be, what, a 68,000, I think. I don't think this machine has a faster CPU. I'm not really sure about the geometry in this, what the different chips are, etc., etc. So I'll do a little bit of research and then we'll have a look through this. Probably tomorrow, actually. It's getting pretty late here. But what I would say right now is, let's have a look at the capacitors. The power supply capacitors look good in the sense that they are not bulging. There is that a, yeah, okay. There's a capacitor there, which looks okay. A couple of small ones here, which look fine. I think there's memory under here. I'm not going to take the disk drive off right now, although it is actually very loose. There's that standoff there that broke. So we'll see if we can actually repair that at some point. Yeah, weird. It's like the disk drive. Yeah, it looks like the disk drive can actually have screws. No, I'm not sure if it can actually have screws. It looks like it just sits on there like that. Maybe it's just held in place by the case. That's interesting. But right now it is missing, obviously, this standoff here, which is broken. So we'll have to see if we can glue that back on. It's not a good sign, is it? I mean, it looks like it's had a bit of a shock, which has caused that to break. But I would say, I mean, looking at it, apart from a little bit of dust, of which there's not a great deal, a little bit of dust there by the fan, of course there is. I mean, I think it looks fantastic. Got some spaces here for some ROMs. I don't know why that is. I'll have to do some research into that. I don't know if that's an earlier design, which meant that, you know, it required more ROMs in the earlier revisions, and then later it only needed 2. Seems a bit strange because by this point, I think in the ST's life, everything was done at a reasonable pace, I would say, whereas the early versions of the ST were, let's say, a little bit rushed. Let's put it that way. Exactly the same as the Amiga, actually. Massive competition between Commodore and Atari to get the machine, you know, onto the market first. And as we all know, ST made it to the market first. And because of that, it had certain deficiencies. And then when the Amiga was eventually launched as well, that also had deficiencies because they were trying to catch up with the ST. So you could kind of say in a way that the competition between the ST and the Commodore Amiga was detrimental to both platforms, to be honest, because they both really rushed to market in the early stages. And that's why I think the early ST didn't have an internal floppy drive, which then obviously came pretty soon after. Anyway, like I said, let me do a little bit of research into this, and then I'll take out the floppy drive and we'll have a look at the board and see what we have. So yeah, there we are. That wasn't too bad, was it? I'm holding on to this obviously because the floppy drive could fall out. It's not actually screwed in as we saw earlier. I'm very happy that, you know, I only discovered this actually when I was taking the machine just now apart in the previous bit of footage, that it has actually not been opened, which is really good, which means it's pretty much pristine. Doesn't mean it's working, obviously. There could still be faults with it. I have no idea if the disk drive works or anything else works in it, to be honest. It was sold to me as working, but obviously it's been, you know, it's transported over from Germany, and couriers are never very gentle with these things. So there's obviously the chance that some kind of damage was done. It's possible that the standoff that broke here broke in transit, although I kind of find it pretty hard to believe because it was very well wrapped in bubble wrap, but who knows, you know, maybe there was some kind of shock to it. So yeah, we're not going to look into this right now in detail because I think this video is kind of long enough. Let me just put this down. But in preparation for testing it, I have actually taken some steps. Behind me, let me show you this, is a monitor that I bought today. I actually drove to a guy's house earlier and picked this up literally today. I bought this off eBay yesterday, so yeah, pretty quick turnaround on this. And it's a gaming monitor. It's an Asus gaming monitor. And I was reading up about displays that you could use with an ST. And one recommendation was that you use a VGA cable with one of these monitors. And apparently they can actually sync to 15 kilohertz, which is actually what the signal is on an ST, which is unusual for VGA. Now then, I must say, I'm not quite sure if this is an exact match for that monitor. So fingers crossed that I haven't just bought a turkey. It wasn't too expensive. It's only £25. Now, it's not going to work just by having that monitor. I do need to get an adapter. I did some research and that led to me buying that monitor, but it also led to me understanding that you can get basically a cable and you can wire it up yourself and plug it into a VGA monitor. And this will work with pretty much any VGA monitor. And you can get an ST to work in high resolution mode, which is only black and white. But that actually runs at 30 kilohertz, I think it is, and which is VGA speed. And that means that you get a monochrome image, which is fantastic. But I obviously want to use this machine for games as well, and other software. So I would like a solution that actually works in color. And as I just mentioned, the problem is that the color outputs from the ST run at 15 kilohertz. But I watched a video where a guy actually made his own VGA cable, and he did manage to actually output the RGB signals to a VGA monitor. And he actually managed, I can't remember what the solution was now. Oh yeah, it was some kind of adapter that he used. And it did actually manage to adapt that VGA signal, and I think it increased the refresh rate and actually got it to work really well. So I'm kind of trying to do a similar thing with this adapter that I've shown you, except that in this case, the upscaling of the refresh rate is actually hopefully going to be done by this monitor. So fingers crossed that that actually works, and then I can actually get a picture out of my ST. Now, the adapter that I bought can actually either output the signal in mono mode, in which case it should pretty much definitely work with this, or it can actually do low resolution and medium mode. So even if the low resolution and medium modes don't work with this monitor, I should be able to switch it to the high res mode and actually test it. And that at the least would allow me to see that the machine is actually working, the disk drive is working, so on and so forth. So hopefully that's going to work out. I have to wait for that adapter to turn up, so I can't really continue and test this machine. So what I'm going to do is, as I said earlier, I'm going to do a bit of research into it, learn a bit more about the machine and what the different chips are and how it all works. And then what I'm going to do probably in the next video is take the machine apart and we'll do a little bit of restoration on it. Maybe for now, light restoration, maybe just a bit of cleaning. I do need to do something about the keyboard as well. This is the keyboard. It's actually in cosmetically really good condition. The keys actually feel quite nice. It's quite a nice keyboard, to be fair. I think it's nicer than an Amiga keyboard, definitely better quality keys, nice and clicky. But unfortunately, on this particular one, this cable is absolutely ratty. You can actually see the insulation there where the plastic has come apart. And it just looks like, as I said earlier, it looks like it's been cut. Although I'm looking along the length of it and I can see breaks in it everywhere. So basically what's happened is the rubbery plastic has just perished and it's just falling apart. So if anybody knows what I can use to replace this with, I think it's probably, hopefully, maybe an RJ11 or something like that, like a standard cable. And in which case I can hopefully just buy an off-the-shelf old stock one of these cables and replace it, because by God, it needs it. And then, yeah, like the keyboard itself, I mean, it's actually really nice. I think it's in really good condition. So I'm pretty much assuming that I can't swap around the, as I said, it's a German keyboard. So it's a Quartz and then the Y is here. I would like to swap the Z with a Y. I'm pretty much certain I can't do that because the curvature of the keys won't match up. So it's a pity, but you know, whatever. I've got so many German keyboards. I may as well just learn to type in using the German layout, to be honest. So yeah, we now have an ST on the channel and it'll be my first ST. So obviously I've got to wait for that adapter to turn up so I can actually connect it to a monitor and see if I've got an image. And I obviously need to do some cleaning on that case because it is hopefully dirty. That's what I'm really hoping for, because then I won't have to retrobrite it. I have looked at some images of a new Mega 4 and they were actually quite a lot lighter than my machine looks. So I might crack out the Uvinator, but I've never actually brought it in here and I'm a little bit worried about bringing it here with a new floor and getting any sort of peroxide on it. In the old floor, in my old office where I used to use it, there's just some not very good laminate there and I wasn't really that worried about it, but in here, it's a brand new floor, so we'll have to see how it goes with that. Don't really have much space for it either, to be honest. Maybe I should get like a rubber mat or something to protect the floor and then get that going. Anyway, that's for another day. Hope you enjoyed the video and I hope to see you in the next one. And if you did like this video, then please click on the like button. And of course, if you've not seen any of our videos before, then please subscribe to the channel. And if you do subscribe, please hit the bell so you get notifications about future videos. Anyway, I'll hope to see you in those coming up soon. And until then, take care and have a good day.